Hey everybody. This week, what our project is going to be is to learn how to do black and white photography. And the reason people like black and white photography is because, as you can see, especially in the flower picture on the left, sometimes colors are really vibrant and they're an important part of the story that you're trying to tell, but they often also can take away from us seeing shapes and contrasts and edges of things. So when you strip the color from things, it'll bring out those contrasts, the textures of things, and make that pop. So what I'm going to do today is show you how to turn things black and white using Photopea, the online free editing software you guys can use from your Chromebook. So these are two pictures I took last week. One is the flower picture and one is Momo. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to Photopea. The website is photopea.com. And I am going to open these two pictures and show you how to use them. How to turn them black and white. That's what I meant. So I will open them. You can open, just like in Photoshop, you can have more than one picture open at a time. So you'll see both of them open. When you open JPEGs, it automatically will turn it into a PSD file. I am one of the differences between Photopea and Photoshop, unfortunately, because it's an online editor, you can't just save the files because it's not working off the computer. So as I work, if I want to back something up, I'm going to go to File, and you'll see the save is grayed out. You would have to save it as the PSD file. Every time you save, it'll generate a new one. And then it'll still back up what you're doing, but it'll generate multiple files on your computer. That's just kind of how it goes. So I'll show you that as we go. Otherwise, Photopea works just like Photoshop. Here's my arrow tool, the move tool. All the shortcuts are exactly the same. If you want the move tool to behave similarly to how it does in when we have set it up in Photoshop, I would just make sure auto select and transform controls are both checked off, and that will work. Otherwise, turning things black and white is actually quite easy. I'm going to start with the flower picture because it's just going to be so obvious when I take the colors out of these flowers. So I'm in my move tool. Here's my JPEG, here's my image, and on the bottom you will see shortcuts to bring up various things. Here's to delete a layer, just like in Photoshop. There's the trash can. Here's to make a new layer. And if I bop a couple over, you'll see there's adjustment layers here. That's where you find things like levels adjustment, which we've done multiple times. I'm going to click that. And really the best two options for creating black and white images is to use either the black and white adjustment layer or the gradient map adjustment layer. And the reason you want to use those versus just taking out all the color, like desaturating it, is because when you desaturate it, you don't get the full range of going to full black and full white. What the black and white filter does and the gradient map do is they make a much richer level of contrast, so they work much more effectively. I am going to start with the easier one. So the easier one actually is the gradient map. And what the gradient map does is it takes different colors and it looks at your colors and it maps them to the full range of black and white. So it'll take some of the colors and send it to black, some of them to white, and all the range in between of grays. So I'm going to click gradient map, again, clicking this to bring up the adjustment layers here on the bottom, going to gradient map, and boom, my picture turns black and white. There it is. And you can see just how different things look when you strip out the color. So here it is. It's just automatically done. It went from black and white. If I click over here on the properties where it says PRO, that'll make that either pop out or go away. And you can see how different that is. So when you look at the color, you often are not noticing the edges of the leaves and where the leaves transition into the flower. If I turn it black and white again, you're really seeing that contrast. So you're starting to see the shapes of the flowers against the leaves, and it brings out a lot more contrast. Now you can add different adjustment layers. Like you could take this and then go in and adjust the levels afterwards if you wanted to. So I can go in and adjust the levels and say, hey, I want this higher contrast, and make my whites whiter just to bring out more of it, to make the sky pop a little bit more. And voila, I have a really interesting, a much more interesting black and white image. So again, that's without levels, that's with levels, and that's without black and white, and that's with black and white. I'm going to turn that off for a second, and I'm going to show you the other one. So going back down to the adjustment layer, again, here is the gradient map. Now the black and white is a little bit more complicated, although it works really well. So I'm going to click on the black and white filter. What the black and white filter does is it says, hey, everything that I'm looking at in color is made out of these colors: red, yellow, green, cyan, blue, and magenta. And what it is doing is it's deciding how bright or dark to make things in that color range. So for example, if I were to take magenta, you'll see, because those flowers were magenta, magenta's kind of like a hot pink. As I drag this slider back and forth, it's taking the things that are in the magenta range, and it's either making them super bright or super dark. So it's a little bit more sophisticated than the gradient map, because you were deciding kind of color by color, what do I want to do? So for example, the sky here, in this case, is kind of gray, and I don't like it. The sky is blue. So if I pull up my blues, I'm going to get so much more contrast out of this picture because I'm brightening up just the blues. Green and cyan will make adjustments, I guess. Oh, cyan will make adjustments also to the sky. Cyan is kind of a lighter blue. Green, that's fascinating. There's not a ton of green. I bet yellow is going to make the adjustment to the leaves. Yep. So that's going to affect the leaves. And red. Yep. So there you go. So you can kind of fiddle with it and decide what you like and how you want it, by essentially going through color by color and deciding how each color is getting dealt with. So again, it went from that to that. Or if I just used the gradient map, that's what the gradient map looked like. So it's much richer in the blacks, and then that was with the levels adjustment. So pretty easy, and you would decide whatever you like. Now when you go out and take black and white pictures, you want to choose something where that contrast is going to make sense. So normally I would not do that to something where the color is really key. You're trying to bring out the contrast if you can. When you are done, what you can do, like I said, if you just want to save it, like you're not done, you might want to open it again another day, just like we would in Photoshop. I'm going to go and I'm going to save it as a PSD. And what you'll see is when I hit Save PSD, it's going to just download a PSD onto my computer. I can open PSDs in Photopea. So if I came back tomorrow, I could just go and open this. It would be in my downloads folder. If I'm done with it, you should export it back to a JPEG and hand it in to me, because I would love to see it. So you're going to go to File, Export As, JPEG, and it's going to bring up the JPEG options you have. I would leave all of this information the same. That's your width and height. I would just drag the quality up to 100%. You can see I'm having a little bit of lag. It just, sometimes Photopea is a little slow, and I'm going to go save, and then that will download as well. I'm going to do it again one more time just to show you, and on Momo, you'll really see why black and white as an advantage over color. So this is my cat, Momo. This picture, the color is a real distraction. The flower picture, it was really beautiful. In this one, color really serves as a distraction because there is so much color behind her in my house, and it's drawing my attention away from her. So in terms of creating emphasis, it's not working in my favor. So I bet this is going to look great as a black and white picture. So I'm going to go, I opened up Momo. I'm going to go to the adjustment layer, and let's just look at the gradient map first. I'm going to click gradient map. Boom. And you can see just in doing that alone, how much more attention it draws to her and how much it de-emphasizes the background, because now the background is just blurry and dark, and her texture of her fur really pops. Her fur color isn't super important, so it makes her face super pop by doing that. So that would be using the gradient map. I can also go in again and do the black and white. That's the other option. You don't have to do both of them. I'm just showing you both. Black and white, and then I can decide how it deals with different things, right? So that would brighten up the background a little bit and some of her fur. I'm just playing with this for a minute to see what happens. Cyan is going to be the window outside, so by dragging the cyan down, it de-emphasizes the window. Magenta doesn't do a whole heck of a lot, but this is a way of just kind of removing some of that background. And there we go. And then again, if I wanted to, I could also do a last levels adjustment to get her to pop even more if I wanted higher contrast. So that's with that. If I want to make any adjustments and I want to go back and say, I don't totally love what I did with that, I want to mess with it more, to go back and mess more with an adjustment layer. So let's just, again, I'm looking at the black and white. What you do is you just double click on this left part here where it says BLA, or gradient says GRA, or level says LEV. It gives you a little shortcut. So I'm going to double click that, and I think I'm going to take the green down because it was making her eyes look a little bit crazy. Because you can see when it pops, it makes her eyes look brighter. So there we go. So that was with the black and white and levels adjustment. That's with the gradient map. And again, you can pop both on like I'm doing and then choose the one that looks best. The little eyeballs next to the layers let you turn those on and off so you can see. But with her, you can really see how much taking color out actually makes the picture work better. And then I will save it as a PSD in case I change my mind later and want to work on it. And that'll download here. And then I'll go back, File, Export, and I will export it as a JPEG. And then it'll ask me the same questions. This time it defaults to what it was set up to before. You can attach metadata if you want. What that would let me do is see what your, like if you were taking it with a DSLR, I'd be able to see what your settings were on your camera. So that's what metadata is. It's a way of like opening a picture and it embeds information like what's the shutter speed, what was the focus set to, what's the aperture, and I hit save. And then there it would be in my downloads folder. Go to Canvas, find the assignment called black and white, and show me what you do. Turn it in. And experiment with it. Again, things with really good texture and contrast in it will look great when you strip the color from it. So give that a go. Look forward to seeing what you guys do. Bye.